When I started traveling for the first time back in college, nobody ever warned me about the price that I would have to pay. And I'm not talking about the ticket prices, I'm not talking about accommodations, I'm talking about in your heart. If you've traveled and you feel this pain in your heart where you're longing and wishing that you could go back or that you could just go somewhere else and be out of the place that you're in, or you're living abroad and your heart starts to hurt and you were like, I was so excited to come here, but now my heart's hurting. What's going on? In this episode, I just want to help give you a more broad perspective of what could be happening, what happened to me in my travel past, my travel experiences. And I want to give you actual tools and helpful tips to be able to navigate all these different emotions that you're going to be feeling as you're living abroad, traveling, seeing the whole world. And so welcome to episode 1 of So You Want to Travel with me, your host, Megan O. Okay, I'm so excited. If you can't tell from the way that I'm smiling as I'm talking, I'm so excited for this podcast. It's literally just going to be all of the travel tips that I have accumulated since I started traveling back in 2014 was my first time I ever went abroad. I had been throughout the States, I'm an American, so I had been all over America. But as far as going abroad, I went to London. I visited my friend who was studying abroad, and it started the bug. It started the travel bug. I couldn't stop doing it. And like I was saying at the beginning, I really want to talk about this price that I feel like I've had to pay. I don't want you guys to be left in that painful state that I was in for so long, where I felt like I was alone. I got depressed from traveling, and nobody told me about that, because when you go somewhere and you see these new sights, you have these new experiences, and a piece of your heart gets left in that country, you come back to your everyday life and you're going, oh my gosh, this ain't it. This ain't it. Let's get right into that right after I tell you a little bit about myself, because maybe you don't know who I am. Maybe this is the first time you've seen me or the first time that you've heard my voice. Let me tell you about my travel experience a little bit, so you better know me. My name is Megan. I am an American. I currently live and work abroad in Seoul, South Korea. My YouTube channel is all about how to help people live abroad if they are trying to come to Seoul, how to take public transportation, how to save money, etc., etc. Check me out on YouTube if that is what you are interested, or if that's where you're interested in going, South Korea. But before that, back in college was when I started all of these travel endeavors. My closest friend at the time, one of my best friends, Sarah, I love her so much. She was studying abroad in London, and she was like, girl, you gotta come. You gotta come visit me. You gotta come visit me. And I had never been overseas. And so the idea was very exciting, but also do I really want to go over the ocean? It seems kind of big. And being in a plane for that long kind of seems a little scary. So I don't know if I want to go. Well, I went, and it was an incredible time. When I tell you, you get off that plane and you just see a whole different world. Of course, it's the same Earth, but everything is different. To see a double-decker bus, to be taking the tube and feeling all posh and being able to explore London and have my cup of tea and crumpets, all of that. I know I'm being so stereotypical. I was only there for a week and a half, 2 weeks. Come back to the States. Now I'm looking at my mundane everyday life, and I am comparing it in my head to this highlight reel experience that I had abroad. That would be hard for anybody, right? But nobody warned me or prepared me for all of the ways in which you will get stuck in your mind. You will be stuck in these ruminating thoughts of, man, I just wish I could go back, or man, that was so much fun. You are stuck in the future or the past. Fast forward, I was so obsessed with London. I was like, I got to go back. Okay. So I went and I studied abroad just for the summer program, which is only 5 weeks. It was the beginning, first week was in Scotland. And then the next few weeks after that, we all studied in literally the heart of London. Incredible experience, met incredible people. You only have to take 2 classes, and the classes are so easy that you're really just there to travel. You're really just there to have fun. And we had a great time, so many great memories. And I fell in love. We are going to talk about relationships abroad in a different episode. But for now, I have this wonderful experience, come back to the States, and I have to graduate college, and I have to focus on presentations. And my brain is just y'all, America ain't it. America ain't it. And it's sad because I was so not in the present. Eventually, I was really excited to graduate. I became a Christian. And so that really gave me a new excitement for life and gave me purpose and meaning and love. And so that kind of took over my heart for the next season, from like graduation for the next few years. But fast forward to, I kind of went back to college to study sign language. And some of the people of this Christian organization said, hey, would you think about being on our team that goes over to East Asia? And I'm like, Asia? And at this point, I forgot to mention, I had gone on some trips with friends I went to Paris for a day. I went to Italy. My choir trip took a trip to Austria. So I had seen more places. But again, all like European side of the world. And I go and someone says East Asia. I'm like, Asia? Hadn't really thought much about it. Can't really say I have a strong desire. But long story short, I went. First time I went to Asia, did not have a good experience. So we are not ruminating over that in a positive way. I was thinking about that experience going, I will never go back. Clearly, I live here now, so that that didn't happen. But when I eventually did go back for a second trip to East Asia, it was incredible. Like, to compare cultures, to have me, my American self, which is very individualistic, very I, me, inward thinking, inward way of living, to go to a collectivistic society where they are thinking us, we, society. It was so, I mean, my brain was working overload, right? We're comparing so many things. Like, so you live with your parents until you get married, and they're like, you leave the house and live alone? There's so many ways in which the way that you walk, talk, eat, do life, have community, there is so much that is different. So I got addicted to this cultural comparativeness. I wanted to explore more places. I wanted to know more about different countries. And honestly, I started enjoying life abroad more than I was in the States, specifically because of the freedoms that I had felt that I didn't have when I was in America. Now, when you travel abroad, the cultural comparison that you're going to experience, that you're going to have to do because you're experiencing so much new. The best phrase that I was taught, it makes me laugh, but it's so true. You tell yourself when you experience something that's so unique, so unlike anything that you'd ever seen yourself, it's not wrong, it's just different. This is like, stamp it onto the back of your hand. You know, when we used to write our crushes' names on our hands, write that on your hand. Tattoo it on your face backwards so you can see it when you look in the mirror. When I say this is so important for you to have a good experience abroad, when you're an American and then you go to Asia and an old, as we call in Korea, like ajushi, old man, hacks a loogie on the sidewalk right in front of you with the girth in his throat of just, I'm not going to make the noise, but just hacking the most aggressive loogie and spinning it right in front of you. I mean, I think I've gotten like ricochet, like I think I've gotten in the splash zone of some of those, right? It's, from my perspective, it's disgusting. But that is part of their culture. Everybody does it. When you walk around the streets, people wonder why you take your shoes off when you go into houses in Asia. That's because we got loogies everywhere. We got people be spitting up on the street everywhere because so many people smoke. But again, we don't go, how disgusting, how horrible of that person to do that. We go, it's not wrong. It's just different. Even though it might feel really wrong. It might feel so wrong. It might feel like nails on a chalkboard wrong, but it's not, because it's just not what you're used to. So again, it's not wrong. It's just different. And I'm not saying that people in China and Korea are like, I love it when people hack loogies. I'm just saying, as a whole, you don't want to like allow your brain to be plagued with this thought of negativity of what people are doing around you that is different. You want to try to acclimate yourself, and you want to try to be one with the culture and be as open-minded as possible. So that was something that was very important for me to learn my very first time going to a specifically Asia. But It's not wrong. It's just different. We are trying to be one with the culture. We are trying to bring ourselves and our uniquenesses with us so that we can have these rich cultural exchanges when we talk with people from a different country. But we're not going to look at their way of doing life in a negative light. You also want to catch yourself when you want to do it in an overly positive light as well. Just because they do something one way does not mean that you go there, you collect all the ways that they do something right, and then you come back to your home country and go, man, I wish America had this, 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 this. We have to do it like this, 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 this. That stinks. This is the second tip of advice. You want to be able to open-handedly hold positives and negatives of both places, both your home country and both where you travel to or where you plan to maybe go back to, or maybe you're just doing research and you're planning and you're learning about cultures in advance. You want to be able to hold both their way of life, positives and negatives, and your way of life, positives and negatives, and you want to hold all of that together. You don't want this to be a scale that starts to weigh heavily in one way or another, because you will either have a horrible trip or you'll have a horrible time when you come home. You're going to be so stuck on, man, I wish America did it more like this, that the scale becomes so heavily tipped down against your home country that you will grow depressed or bitter towards where you should be proud to be from to some degree, right? No country is perfect, but we don't want to go and hate on the nationality that we hold as our identity as an American. I don't want to go around and say, man, America sucks. That's just going to make me a bitter and sad person. Instead, I can go, man, I really loved that public transportation was so convenient when I went to Korea. But it is really nice that I can have a car myself and be able to choose where I want to go, and I don't have to wait on the bus, transportation system. I think about, when I live here in Seoul, South Korea, it's so nice. I can get food delivered to my door and it can show up in like 20 minutes. And I don't have to tip. And the delivery fee is so cheap, and food itself is also cheap. And so I love that. But then I go to America and I go, what's really nice is I can just go out to eat by myself in the States, and I can do it confidently. Not that everybody does it confidently, but I can do it confidently without having to really worry about what are people thinking about me. I don't have to worry like I do here in Korea. I have to worry about, can I eat there by myself? Like, can I eat at this restaurant by myself? Because in a lot of restaurants in Korea, they expect it to be 2 or more people. So again, I'm holding both places with pros and cons. And if you are currently feeling really bitter and depressed, you've come back from a place and you really wish that you could go back, you really are sad to be where you currently are, where your feet are currently planted, I really encourage you to make a pros and cons list. I really encourage you to be able to take that time to say, okay, what does my country have that I'm proud to say that I am from this country? There is something. Even if you immediately in your head said, this place sucks, there's nothing good here. There's something. Even if it just comes down to the daily comforts that you have, being able to do them more easily. I talked about that in a recent YouTube video of you don't understand what your daily comforts are until they're taken from you. And it's a really good transition into point number 3. Usually homesickness kicks in around month 3 to 4. So if you have gone on a trip for a less amount of time than that, you had a highlight experience. You had a honeymoon experience. You didn't have a real authentic, this is what life would be. I will feel this way if I live in that country experience. It's when you come to month 3 or 4, sometimes, and I'm not saying always, but usually that is when homesickness will hit. And again, it could be before that, it could be after that, but that is the average amount of time that it takes for someone to feel homesick, for them to long and to miss the country that they call home usually, or the country that they are from. And so again, people will go and they'll be so excited to go. They'll be so excited to get back to this place that maybe they took a trip to and they had just the best time and there was so much to do. And then come 3-4 months in, they're like, why am I so sad? I loved when I came to visit. I came to visit and I loved this place. Why am I feeling homesick? I was so excited to come. I just want to tell you, you're human. It's so natural to feel that way. Nothing's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong with you. It's so incredibly natural. And the more time you beat yourself up over it, the harder time you're going to have abroad. And then that scale that I talked about with the pros and cons, your scale is going to start to tip against the country that you're currently visiting in. And you're going to start to just wish that you were home, that you forget that where your feet are planted, there's purpose. And we'll talk about it more later about the purpose thing, but focusing on the homesickness for a second. If you plan to maybe go teach abroad or study abroad and you plan to be there for more than 3 months, even just in general, I really highly encourage you to bring something that makes you go, whether it be a candle you really like, whether it be a stuffed animal that you grew up with, whether it be just something sentimental that you have that you got as a gift, or specifically something that has a smell, I think has been one of the most helpful things that I've learned over time, but something that just makes you think about home. Now, some people will say, I don't want to even be reminded of it because then when I get out that candle and I think about it, I just get more sad. There are some days where you might feel that way, where the homesickness hits so hard, you just want to totally forget about home and try to go out and have fun and remember why you moved there in the first place. That is a very good thing to do, by the way. Sometimes you don't want to just sit in those feelings and dwell in them. But I'm going to tell you right now with such certainty, there will be a day where you go, man, I wish I just had that candle. Man, I wish I just had that thing that made me think of home, that reminded me of home. So a lot of people didn't warn me about that before I moved abroad the first time. And I remember the first few times that I was living abroad for a long period of time, I was like, man, I really wish I had more homey things, things that made me think of home, like my favorite blanket. I really wish I had my favorite blanket, or candles just don't smell the same here. I wish I had my favorite candle. So that is another tip of just prepare yourself for that homesickness. Don't beat yourself up about it either. And again, just know that some days it is good to just kind of forget about the homesickness, go out, have a good time, remember why you moved there in the first place, see all the sights, do all the things. But then sometimes it's good to just be able to sit at home and be sad. It's totally okay. Watch some videos that make you sad. Get out those emotions, feel those feels. And while you feel them, say, it's okay that I feel this way because I didn't realize what a daily comfort was until I didn't have it. Now I don't have it. Now it's kind of hard for me to go to the store and buy things because people try to speak to me in a different language that I don't know what they're saying. But that's okay because I'm proud of myself that I moved to the other side of the world. I did the dang thing. How many people can say that they did the dang thing? And I'm out here doing the dang thing. So try to really allow yourself to feel those feels, but also give yourself that encouragement pat on the back. And then the fourth and final point that I really have for you guys is, I hinted at it earlier. This has been the best piece of advice that I have told my friends who experience homesickness or who experience that traveler's depression that we'll talk about in the next episode. Where your feet are planted, there is purpose. You don't want to live too far in the future, nor do you want to live too far in the past. Our past will remind us of things. We can learn from our past. Our future can excite us and give us that motivation and encouragement for something that we would long to maybe go back to or see for the first time. But wherever your feet are planted, there is purpose in that day. I will say that for me, my beliefs play a very, very heavy role in this. I won't talk too much about my beliefs because I want this to really apply to as many people as possible, but taking my beliefs as an example, God is love. There's a verse in the Bible that says, I can love other people because he first loved us. And there are two of the greatest commandments, which is to love God and then to love other people. So when I take that purpose that I see in my life that I have, I know that today, there is a way in which I am to love somebody. I know that today, if the greatest commandment is to love God, I can do that today where I am, and there's something he wants to teach me. And so there's a beauty in every day. If you go to work, there's a purpose that you have at that job. Maybe a coworker needs to talk to you. Maybe they need that encouragement. Maybe for no reason at all, you just feel like you want to give them a hug, and you give them a hug, and they're like, man, I really needed that. Maybe you go to Starbucks and you pay for the person's drink in the car behind you. You do an act of paying it forward, or you just do a kind act. You give someone a compliment because why the heck not? You really did like their shirt and you wanted to tell them. You have no idea how much that person might have needed to hear that. I really do believe that everything happens for a purpose. Everything has a reason behind it. So tell yourself on the days that you forget, on the days that you're too often looking forward, or on the days that you're too heavily absorbed and obsessed with looking back, tell yourself, it's okay that I have those longings. It's okay I have those desires. I'm happy I have those memories. It's better that I made them than I didn't. But where my feet are planted right now, there is purpose and meaning. And that really has shifted my perspective in the most beautiful way, that I can maybe go to that job and make that money and build up the spending or the money that I need to be able to spend on the ticket and to live abroad for however long I plan to. It gives me excitement and encouragement and motivation to look forward. I think about my past memories, which excite me because I want to make more, but I'm still present in the moment. And if you are listening to the sound of my voice, you have purpose, you have meaning, you are loved. People love you and they care about you. And if you say nobody cares about me, I truly, truly believe that God loves you and cares about you. And so just to know that there's purpose and meaning in my life, that I am loved by someone, it's like that, it's like a hug to your heart, and it helps you get up in the morning. And taking the time to really purposefully get your mind in the right mindset to look forward to the trip, or to look at where you currently live and, weigh the scales, the pros and cons of both countries. It all takes intentionality. You have to be intentional with your time. You have to take the step. You can't just expect your mind to be able to just on its own be able to, I'm just going to suddenly choose to think positive now. Yeah. You have to be intentional to sit down, to fight the negativity in your head that will often pop up, whether you're in a country and you're having a hard time, or you're home and you're longing to be somewhere else. You have to be intentional, and you have to be persistent to try to rewire your mind, which wants to marinate and dwell in that negativity bin. It's natural for us to want to just remain negative when we do have such strong longings and we do have such strong pains or homesickness. But if you're really intentional to use your time wisely, take the time to maybe write out a list of the pros and cons, to really write out a list of all the ways that you're blessed, to really tell yourself, okay, what is an act of kindness that I can do today that could matter in somebody's life, and plan to do that. All of that intentionality, I do promise you'll see progress. You'll see progress. You'll fall more in love. Maybe it's slowly, maybe it's a roller coaster. Some days you're feeling real great about it, and some days you go back down. That's okay, but there will be progress. And we as humans, as adults, we need to really stretch and work our mind muscles to counter what we are so taught in culture and media. The media wants us to think that the world is always falling apart and everything sucks. But there's always blessings. There's always ways to be thankful. And so if we can really exercise those positive parts of our brain, our mind, our hearts, we end up having a more authentic, more vibrant life, because we can look at both the negatives and the positives with the right perspective and not kind of get carried or lost in one or the other. In the next episode, I do want to talk about traveler's depression. And then the following episode, I'm going to give you guys probably the most helpful episode of all of these, which is going to talk about questions to ask if you plan to go on a trip with somebody else. I so look forward to talking to you guys about that and helping you not end up losing friends if you try to go on a trip with somebody else, y'all. It's happened to me. So we're going to talk about that in a future episode. If you liked this and you're on YouTube, give it a like, leave a comment down below. And if you're listening online, it would really mean a lot if you could leave a review. I am new to this, but I am really excited to continue to give you my travel knowledge. I hope you guys found this enjoyable, helpful to some degree, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye!